And on top of that, he's got a lot to play for as we move to our Week 18 motivations. Baker Mayfield tops the list in terms of the financial incentives. So here are the players with notable financial incentives for Week 18. We talked about Baker against the Panthers, Jordan Love against the Bears, Geno against the Cardinals, Austin Eckler against the Chiefs, Devin Singletary against the Colts, DeAndre Hopkins against Jacksonville, Dalton Schultz against the Colts as well. Baker has incentives, guys, for passer rating, passing yards, touchdowns, completion percentage, and yards per attempt. $300,000 in incentives as you see them here, Matthew. I mean, he's in the top 10 of most of these categories. He needs to hold on. It's a lot of money, and, of course, their season is on the line.
No question about it. I mean, basically, he needs to either finish the top 10 in the NFL or top 5 in the NFC in all these different categories. 4 out of the 5, obviously, as you can see there on your screen, he's currently qualified through Week 17. In essence, he needs a good game. If he has a good game, he's going to hit most, if not all of these. He needs a good game, and so we expect him not only to play, but to play well, to get up there and to gut it out in a must-win matchup against Carolina. Yes, Panthers have played better. This game is in Carolina, but I believe in Baker. I think Baker has a good game. I think the Bucs win. I think they make the playoffs. And I think he makes himself some money in the process.
Yep, I agree. And I think with a lot of these incentives that we're going to talk about, I think they get reduced in a game where you need to win and you need to win the game. I don't think Jordan Love is going to be checking out a run plays to throw the ball deep because he needs to win the game to get into the playoffs. They're going to play a normal game. Where it kind of gets a little wonky is when either there's nothing at stake, and I know it's not an incentive, but Puka Nacua to break the receiving record, I would say they're going to skew the game plan to get him that. And then also, if it is a blowout, if for instance, we'll talk about these guys like DeAndre Hopkins, if they're getting blown out or it's a blowout, then maybe you feed them at that point.
So let's get into some of the other incentives here of the players we saw on the list. Jordan Love, he gets an extra $1 million for finishing top 10 in yards. He's currently 10th. 40 yards ahead of Jalen Hurts right now. So Jordan Love, we think we'll be able to hold on to that one. Obviously, Jay, as you mentioned, the Packers have a ton to play for in this game against the Bears defense. DeAndre Hopkins needs 7 receptions for $250,000, 39 receiving yards for $250,000. Austin Eckler needs 110 scrimmage yards to earn $100,000. Devin Singletary needs 74 scrimmage yards to earn $250,000. Dalton Schultz, big one here for Dalton Schultz. 6 receptions to get him $500,000, 107 receiving yards for another $250,000. And because of all these guys, DraftKings has a lot of specials going into this weekend. They're called the Show Me the Money specials right here. Matthew, are any of these incentives intriguing to you from maybe a betting or fantasy perspective?
Singletary certainly is, and I feel better. 6 receptions is a lot, as is as is the yards as well. He's had only one game with over 107 receiving yards this season, and he's been under 6 receptions in 5 of the past 6. But no Noah Brown in this game. C.J. Stroud needs a great game, not only for the Texans to win this game and get into the playoffs, but if he has a great game and they win this game, he's Offensive Rookie of the Year. And, I think there's probably something in the back of his mind. He wasn't drafted number 1. There were questions coming out of the draft, coming into the draft. There was all the BS about his Wonderlic score and stuff like a bunch of BS. And
the
so
S2 or the new test.
All stupid stuff about C.J. Stroud.
Turns out he's a pretty good quarterback.
He's a freaking great quarterback. He's unbelievable. He's a franchise guy, and I think there's a lot of teams, including one in Carolina, that maybe we should have looked at that a little closer. But anyway, so my expectation here is that Stroud wants to have a big game, obviously, for a lot of different reasons. I'm with you. He's not going to go out of the game plan to try to pad stats to try to get an award. But if there's an opportunity for Dalton Schultz, and there is in a good matchup, I do think you kind of like it. Betting perspective-wise, I feel better about the 6 receptions than I do about the 107 yards, again, with no Noah Brown. But the one I really like is Singletary, who's had at least 74 yards from scrimmage in 4 different games this year. Last time he played Tennessee, 86 scrimmage yards. Last week against Tennessee. Colts, you can run on the Colts. Singletary gets a lot of work. I don't think Dameon Pierce is going to be a big part of this offense tomorrow. So, give me some motor Singletary. My brother from another.
Oh, boy.
Yes. What we both like to motor in different ways.
Yes, very different ways.
You do run into the studio quite often.
Yeah.
Yes, with great pace. So that is minus 150 on DraftKings for Devin Singletary to record. 73 plus scrimmage yards, which would get him $250,000. Now, I think this is the type of thing where if they were to be blowing out the Colts late, and in typical situations, you'd put Dameon Pierce in, like maybe you put Devin Singletary in so he can get that. I will say, like, all of these incentives, we talk about them from a betting perspective, like, you can't just blind bet the over. Like, it has to be relative to a price. So it's not like the books don't know about the incentives as well. So that just, and sometimes there is value on them, but you have to always think about
Would you prefer to bet, so just, DraftKings having this special, right? It's, can he hit his incentive in essence, 74 yards from scrimmage at -150, or his actual line is 81.5. Yeah. Would you rather just bet the 81.5, which I think is at -115. I haven't looked at it. It's something like that.
Yep, I would rather bet the over 81.5 at -115.
I think that's right. I'll look it up real quickly. Yep. Or somebody will, and they'll get in my ear.
So those are the financial motivations. We also have the statistical motivations that are more record-based here. And we kick that off with Travis Kelce. He needs just 16 receiving yards for his 8th straight 1,000-yard season. As you see, a lot of the player names we're going to go through. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Mixon, Tyreek Hill, Puka Nacua, DJ Moore, Kelce there, and Sam Laporta. We got to hear from Andy Reid on Kelce getting the record, who didn't seem overly concerned with it. Take a listen.
You have a couple guys who are close to like milestones or incentives. Is that a priority this week, getting those guys in those numbers?
Yeah, it depends. Depends on what the milestone is.
Let's say it's an 8th straight 1,000-yard season.
We'll see how that goes.
Do they have, what's the conversation like when you have those?
Probably one-sided.
Andy Reid.
Yeah.
National treasure.
Yeah,
National treasure.
Yeah. Very honest.
Andy Reid, very one-sided. I have a lot of one-sided conversations here at NBC. Yeah,
Yes, okay.
Right. Can I do that? No. Okay, good. All right, fair enough.
Oh, boy.
Fair enough.
Oh, man.
So, what does Kelce need? Kelce needs, not a lot.
He needs 16 yards. Not a lock these days for Travis Kelce. Dead's
No.
good. He only got
He's
16
been
last
bad.
week. But you would suspect that in this
I think
type
he
of
plays
game,
the first 2 series.
Yeah.
I think they try to get him to 16 yards.
Get him out of there.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I think fantasy-wise, I don't think you want to play. No. I'd rather, if I was in a Week 18 matchup, I'd rather start Noah Gray than Travis Kelce.
Right.
If you're telling me to pick a Chiefs tight end, Mahomes isn't going to play. It's going to be Blaine Gabbert. Is my expectation. Again, I think they'll play a series or two, but yeah. I wonder if Taylor Swift will be at the game. Cheering on. I wonder if they'll cut to the booth when Noah Gray catches something.
I think she'll probably skip this one. Yeah. Something tells me. Another player. This is more of a long shot one. Joe Mixon needs 147 rushing yards to become the second leading all-time Bengals rusher. And Jay, I feel like if he doesn't get this, which seems unlikely, I don't know if Joe Mixon will be in a Bengals uniform next year to do this.
No. And the thing is he's not being the first all-time rusher, right? So to get the second.
To move up the list.
I don't think you really go out of your way to get him that. I think he'll be fine as third.
By the way, who is number one? Is it Corey Dillon? Who's number one?
That's a good question.
I'm curious who the number one.
It's Penn State Blake. That's a big one.
Yeah,
all right, why Penn State Blake is chasing that down.
Is it Corey Dillon? I'm being told it's Corey Dillon in my ear.
Oh, it is. Okay.
All right, there you go.
Wouldn't have guessed that.
Me.
All right,
Matthew.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Good
it pays
start
to
to
be
Friday.
Yeah, all right. There we go. Can I take the rest of the show off?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was actually an incentive for you, Matthew, to guess that correctly. You just made
You're
$250,000, like Devin Singletary.
I made $25.
You're the Dalton Schultz of the show right now.
Another bag of free popcorn. Yeah.
All right, Tyreek
100%.
Hill.
I might be the Dalton Schultz of this show. I'm slow, but a possession
Solid.
receiver.
Yes.
Had a good middle stretch of the season.
Undervalued, would you say?
Undervalued, Get the ball somewhere near me. I'll come down.
Everyone doubted you?
Yeah.
Undervalued. Didn't Schultz get a big contract?
I think he's on a 1 year.
Is
Yeah,
it?
one
I thought he
year
got
prove it
paid.
deal.
They always
Okay.
say
That's a little bit of
all
me,
1
yeah.
year deals are good deals.
Yeah, that's true.
Tyreek Hill needs 248 receiving yards to break the single season record. Now, with Mostert and Waddle potentially out, I would never say never to Tyreek Hill, but man, that's a lot of yards.
It's a lot of yards against a defense that knows it's coming.
But they might need it from
No,
him.
they do. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's both the Bills and the Dolphins desperately need this game in a big way. The Dolphins can still make the playoffs even if they lose this game. I have my playoff sheet here. I'll tell you, the Dolphins, They clinch the AFC East with a win or a tie. If they lose, they're still
in. If they're in the playoffs, it's just a matter of whether they win the division or not.
Right.
Which means a
But-
lot to them still.
Yeah,
in this one,
But
for sure.
there's still this huge narrative of like they can't beat a good team.
Right. There's something on their back right now, narrative-wise, and I would think internally, the injuries they've dealt with. Where would you price Tyreek Hill to get this record?
I mean,
20 to 1?
No, it'd be longer. It's really hard to get 248 yards.
But it's
in a
Tyreek
game.
Hill.
I know it's Tyreek Hill. I mean,
Saying Waddle and Mostert don't play, which there is
Yeah.
a chance that they do, by
Yeah.
the way. I want to make sure that's clarified.
I think I need
40 to 1?
More, I think.
Wow.
50, 60 to 1. I understand it's Tyreek Hill, but
I'd
still.
put a $5 bill on that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
248 yards is a lot.
It's a lot of
ton.
yards.
I mean, who has done that in recent memory? Like Jamar Chase got 266,
Yeah,
right, against
Jamar's
the Chiefs.
done it.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a Buffalo defense that is playing better, that is
Right.
fully healthy, and also is going to be very keyed in
Yes,
on Tyreek
yes.
Hill.
No, I just
So
want to be
it's
clear,
pretty
it's
hard to get
ridiculous.
248.
We're double teaming Cedric Wilson.
Yeah.
Wait, what are they? Ron Rivera?
Yeah.
No, they're like Ron Rivera's the only guy to ever put single coverage, and Brandon Staley to put
Right.
single coverage on
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill, and just like, we'll see if our guys can keep up with him.
I will say that, what was it, 2 weeks ago when they beat Dallas? And when they beat Dallas, Tyreek had 99 receiving yards. And he wasn't fully healthy at that point. And he dropped what I think was going to be like a 95-yard touchdown. So he was very close to having in the 190s that game.
Tyreek Hill's had a couple of bad drops this year. You know, I think about
The Baltimore one was terrible.
The Baltimore one was terrible. I think about the Eagles game, like that crossing route, which should have been a
He's had a few.
touchdown and would have cashed my parlay as well that I had. I had a Tyreek Hill leg on the parlay. That was the only one that missed, and because he drops that, and don't get me started.
He could be a lot closer to the record
Yes.
than he is. And I think if he'd stayed healthy, if he just stays healthy and doesn't miss the Jets game and then also just catches the 97-yarder against Dallas, then he's probably going to break the record.
Yeah, it's done. Sam Laporta needs one reception to break the tight end rookie record. What a year it's been for Sam Laporta on a significant long shot, 217 yards to break the tight end rookie record for receiving yards. We've talked about
He's
Puka
gonna get that.
Nacua a lot. He needs 4 receptions to break the rookie record. Needs 29 receiving yards to break that record. That is 63 years old. Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts.
And McVay's note on Nacua is great. Quote, this is McVay. I think you'd like to be able to see him get an opportunity to do something special and then be smart with him.
Yes.
He's
Get the record and get to the bench.
Right.
Yeah.
Listen, Puka, as soon as you hit 30 yards,
You're
you
out.
take a knee. You immediately,
to the
don't try to
ground.
get extra yards. You're literally just boom, down, timeout,
Yeah.
you're off the field, here we go.
Yeah. Connor, do you think he's going to break the record?
Yes.
If he doesn't get hurt, he's going to break the record. And Stroud is only a 1.5-point favorite in Indianapolis. Do you think if Stroud loses and Nacua breaks the record, that Nacua is our offensive rookie of the year?
I think it becomes a pick. Yeah, I could see that. But
I
here's-
think Nacua will win.
I think so too, and I'll tell you why. It's the storyline of being a 5th-round pick.
Yep.
That to me is why, which might not be
Out of
fair,
BYU.
but this is a voted award. I want to make that clear.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things in his favor, right? I think first off, and some of them are dumb, but you're right.
Right,
Your
I agree.
fifth round pick out of nowhere.
Awesome name.
Awesome. I was just about to say that. Puka Nacua is just a fun name.
Yes.
And oh, by the way, like he's got a good personality and he gets a benefit, and this is not fair at all. But life is not fair. He kind of looks like the actor that plays Danny Rojas on Ted Lasso, who's all smiles. Football is life. Seriously, and they've done
Great
all
hair.
seriously,
Yes.
there's been a lot of that, and so Puka Nacua is a guy that also, you see him in the post-game press conferences or in the locker room, always smiling. It's super weird, but they both have the long hair, and so I do think people love that character on Ted Lasso, Danny Rojas, and I do think there is some sort of association, some unrealized
Subliminal,
association, subliminal association. What I'll say about Stroud, though. There's a little bit of an underdog there as well. Again, number 2 pick. No one expected the Texans to be good.
That's the
He's
key.
been so good. I think it's not if he loses. I think if he doesn't play well.
Sure.
Like, I think if he has a Brock Purdy-like meltdown,
Yep.
like what we saw, if he has 2 picks and the Colts win, and it's because Stroud, didn't play well, then I think Nacua wins. But I think even in a loss, if Stroud throws 330 yards, 3
then he
touchdowns,
wins, yeah.
but the Texans defense doesn't do it. They fumble a punt return, and the Colts go in there. There's just a couple of fluky plays, and the Colts end up winning for no fault of Stroud. I think he still wins.
Yep, no, I agree. And look, personally, I would
Especially because it's a quarterback.
Yeah, I would vote for Stroud personally. I just think as a quarterback, he has such a more outsized impact on the game. I will say with Nakua though, is that one, like people have an issue with like Stroud missed a couple of games, and also Stroud hasn't really done much for 5 weeks, so he's a little bit out of sight, out of mind. So I think he does need to remind people of how good he was earlier in the season. And the other thing is with Nakua, and this matters a ton for awards, people just love records being broken for awards. They want to vote for the record breaker. And Nakua, statistically, has been about the 4th best wide receiver in football this year. And Stroud, statistically, has been outside the top 10 because he's tailed off a little bit. So I think that if he is kind of average and a loss, then and Nakua breaks the record, I think Nakua wins. If Stroud either wins, doesn't matter his stats, if he wins, he'll win the award. And if he's heroic in defeat, he'll win the award too.
Yeah, I mean, because it's also, by the way, it's a national game.
Yes.
It's a national window. Everyone will be watching. It is for the playoffs. If he leads his team to the playoffs,
that's over.
Even if he's quote unquote mediocre, he's 250, 2 touchdowns and a pick. You know, like he's fine. Defense plays well. Gardner Minshew does a Minshew type thing.
Yep.
You know, the Texans win. I think C.J. Stroud still wins the award.
I agree.
So here's a sneaky one. Both Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts are tied for the single season record for rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in this one. Now, this is a weird one, right? Because Allen feels like he rushes for a touchdown every week, and Hurts has the tush push. Allen is in a high-stakes game with a point total that's hovering around 50 right now, Jay.
Yeah. This, to me, though, is one of those ones where it's like no one knows what the record is or the statistic. This isn't like Aaron Judge going for 62 home runs, right?
Yes.
It's like if you told me to guess like who has the rushing touchdown record right now, what is the number? I have no idea before we did this in the pre-prep. So, I mean, it might be a little bit of a thing, but sure,
it's interesting. I would have said, because I don't totally pay attention during the pre-show call. I probably would have most rush. I probably
Michael
would have said
Vick?
Vick.
I would have said Vick.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even
said Vick.
hesitate. I would have said Vick.
I would have said Vic or Lamar in his MVP.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a massive. It's not. Surely Josh Allen in a game to win the AFC East isn't going to be going out of his way.
And Jalen Hurts wants to, as well. And the other thing is, I don't ever want to say money doesn't matter, because money, of course, always matters, right? And always people want to make incentives and everything like that. Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts are 2 of the highest paid people on the planet, right? You know, and they're 2 of the highest paid players in the NFL. And so I'm not saying $100,000 or whatever their incentive doesn't matter to them. Everyone would like an extra $100,000. I don't care how rich you are. But $100,000 means a lot more to, like, you know, some special teams guy.
Yeah.
You know, or even somebody playing on a 1-year deal like Baker Mayfield, like Dalton Schultz. Right.
He has $750,000 on the line. He's on a 1-year deal. That's life-changing.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Versus Jalen Hurts, who's like, you know, and Josh Allen, who both are like $250 million contracts.
Right. And this is just for a record, by the way.
Yeah.
Literally, it's just a numbers game. For a record that you said, like, who cares?
Yeah. Do you reckon Dalton Schultz goes up to Bobby Slowick before the game? It's like, hey, Bobby.
Wouldn't you?
I will tell you a
6
quick,
catches. I would.
I'll tell you a quick story. So I can't reveal. I'll tell you guys off air. I can't do this, but I just say. So I'm buddies with a guy who's an NBA play-by-play announcer, and he tells me this story.
Mike Breen.
Huh? No, I'm kidding. It is not Mike Breen. It's Doris Burke, my ex-girlfriend. No, stop it. I'm teasing about all that.
Wow.
No. So
we just keep spiraling.
Right. No. Anyway, so buddy of mine, NBA play-by-player. And he tells me this story about, like, so as a play-by-player, he's buddies with all the PR directors of the NBA teams, because he goes around, he does all the interviews and everything like that. So he tells me this story. He goes, there's a guy that was a center. There was a center that was always known for, like, good but didn't fully live up to his potential. A little bit like sort of Shaq in the regular season.
Yep.
This is not a story about Shaq, by the way. But you know how Shaq would always, like, as dominant as Shaq is, Shaq could have been so much better. Like,
Yeah, played himself into shape in the regular season.
He played himself into shape. He never won a rebounding title. It was insane, right? I mean, like, for somebody as dominant as Shaq was, he could have been, so much more so. Anyway, so this is a guy who was sort of like a poor man Shaq. It was like good, but could have been a lot better. And so he goes up to him. The PR guy goes up to the guy and says, hey, by the way, I was doing a press release about some of the incentives, and this is the last game of the season, lost season. And he goes up to this center and he says, by the way, I know it's a long shot, but just want you to know, like, I noticed you're 7 blocks short of $500,000.
Last game?
Last game.
He has
of the
one
season.
game for 7
Well,
blocks.
right. He's like, I know it's a lot, but I just want you to know, I just thought it'd be fun. And the player goes, thanks, man. 7 blocks in the first quarter. 7 blocks in the first quarter. He got it. And then he gets an 8th in the second quarter.
Guess he wasn't really worried about defensive rebounds.
No, but he like literally like he was just like, I got you. Like it just boom, went out. 7 blocks in the first quarter.
That's interesting that Hassan Whiteside did that.
Right, yes. Probably.
Somebody could probably figure out the story
Very
by the way,
easily.
from that.
Very easily. Probably averaged 1.2 blocks per game that year.
Yeah,
7 in the
something, I
first
don't know,
quarter.
something.
That's incredible.
Anyway, but yeah, true story.
Our next one, DJ Moore, another high receiving mark. He needs 209 receiving yards to set the Bears' single-season record. Let's move over to playoff motivations starting in the AFC.
By the way, they're playing he'll see some Alexander, but you're starting DJ Moore.
Yes.
Like I don't think he gets that number, but he's been just so good.
Should have a good game.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting game, by the way.
Hey, the Bears would love to end Green Bay season.
I like the Bears in that spot. I think the Bears are better than the Packers at the moment.
Right, and Bears, it's like plus 3.5 for the Bears, right? Yeah.
We'll see if
That's an
Jalen
interesting
Johnson
bet.
goes. Jalen Johnson's a little questionable, but if he
And
goes, I like the Bears.
Eberflus still coaching for his job at the moment, like an underwritten storyline and Justin Fields playing to be the Bears quarterback of the future.
We have this idea that I think there's this idea that the Bears have had this amazing finish to the season, have like a feel-good season overall. Like their win total is 7.5. Like they've basically hit par, and it hasn't been great for Eberflus a lot of the time. So I agree. I think they want to close out with a win for sure.
But yeah, I definitely like them. I don't know if they beat the Packers, but I definitely like them plus 3.5.
Yep, me too.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.